negotiation intimidating. So appreciate that. So our next session today is a half-hour discussion session. So this is going to be a little different. Feel free to turn your camera on if you'd like to. I will share slides, but we can also look at each other's faces. This isn't a presentation per se. It's an open discussion session where my goals for this session are just to find out where people are with two very looming topics in cataloging. So let me go ahead and do let me get my, see, I am so unprepared here. Get my slides loaded. Here we go, and start sharing those. There we go. So you should be able to see my slides. Just let me know if you can, please.
I do see your slides there you go.
Thank you. Okay. So the two topics we're going to talk about today in conversation are the new RDA toolkit, which is somewhat far along. There's even been some training work from PCC on the RDA toolkit. And then we'll talk about BIBFRAME as well, which feels a little less far along, even though it's been in progress for at least a couple decades now, but who's counting? So I think it might be best to start with the new RDA toolkit. So I have a few discussion prompts, and these are going to feel familiar to you when we talk about BIBFRAME, because essentially what I'm trying to tease out in this discussion session is, what do you know about the toolkit? What are your questions? What would you like to know? Are you doing anything locally about the new toolkit? And what would be helpful to you? What do you need? What do you feel like you need in order to kind of get a hold of this new thing that's coming? So with those in mind, I will open the floor to comments. Do you have information to share about the RDA toolkit? Have you done anything locally that's interesting that you think other people might want to know about? Do you have questions? And don't be shy, because I feel like I want to open this and say it's okay not to know things. I see a comment from Mary at you. We need Lori Robert back. Yes, I agree with you. I want Lori back, and I'm not even at UO. And Casey comments in, he's past chair of the PCC. So he's here and he's happy to answer questions on behalf of the PCC today. So we do have some, what I consider professional backup. I feel like I'm the person in the room who knows the least about either of these topics, frankly. But I'm happy to moderate the conversation. So a note from Paige, and I agree with you. For me, it seems as if the toolkit a lot of times uses the term to define the term. Or when I look up the guidelines, it seems like you're going in circles. And I think I have to agree. In the little bit of poking I've done with the new toolkit, I agree with you, Paige, that does feel like a problem. And Holly has been working through the PCC training session. So one of the things in the slide deck, and there, for each topic, I've listed some resources. So there's I did have a conversation with Li Hongju at WSU earlier this year, and she shared some resources that I've included here, among others. So I think, let me just copy that link into the chat here. So I'm sharing a link to that PCC training materials site. And that's the introductory RDA. So I know one thing that I found, that I heard from, I think Adam at UW, was that this phase one is just kind of, it's almost meta training. It's not cataloging with the new toolkit. It's just kind of the conceptual framework that the new toolkit is built on. So the idea is to familiarize yourself with the meta aspects of the RDA toolkit before then a later phase, which I don't think the date for that has been set yet, where we'll actually learn as catalogers how to catalog with the new toolkit. Just monitoring chat. Diana from UW echoes this. I'm waiting for a PCC application profile or something along those lines. It's hard to imagine using the new toolkit in day-to-day cataloging profile or day-to-day cataloging work. Casey follows up on that with profiles are in the works. And he's looking for, there's a link to a draft that he will share in just a little bit. Michelle has a comment supporting an earlier comment. Also, the subscription is hard to afford. So, you know, there's interest in what are the alternatives? Do we have alternative products or strategies for cataloging post new toolkit or official RDA toolkit, I think is the proper way to refer to it. Okay, and then supporting comment from Kathy about having their institution drop toolkit years ago to kind of cut down on subscription costs in general. And how classification web is quite frequently a good alternative to RDA toolkit, at least under the current toolkit. A question from Adam. Isn't it an Orbis Cascade Alliance requirement that we follow RDA and therefore must use RDA toolkit? It is a requirement that you follow RDA because it is the current cataloging standard that's, you know, agreed upon by LC and OCLC. However, how you do that, if you can't afford toolkit, you know, we need to talk about that. The question has been asked of me before, and Jesse and I have briefly acknowledged, yes, this might be something worth looking into, is a consortial subscription to the toolkit. So I think that is a conversation Jesse and I can take forward, especially since we're requiring catalogers to use the current standard, which is RDA. So I've kind of not answered your question, but I've given you hope that there might be something new in the offing. Sorry about that. We don't currently require the use of any specific tool for achieving your RDA cataloging. So that is a direct answer to your question, Adam. So it feels like, okay, that's one thing I can jot down in my list of things the Alliance might do to support members in terms of the new toolkit and the toolkit in general is a consortial subscription for all members. Comment from Aaron at UW. Yes, we have persistent access issues to both versions of the toolkit that have never been fully fixed. I have to agree. I have an individual subscription to the toolkit, and I frequently will have access issues. It's frustrating. Comment from Adam, then probably we need to arrange consortial training as well. I want to tease out some more about that, Adam. Are there specific things you're looking for? Is there like Alliance specific training that you're interested in, or is it more an idea of coordinating participation in training from PCC?
Yeah, I think it could be making sure that whatever is developed outside of the Alliance is clearly disseminated to Alliance members.
Okay.
Like there was a 13 module webinar that was available for an introduction to the RDA toolkit, which UW catalogers attended, but I don't know if everyone I think they're available for free now to view, but have we let everybody know about them, for example?
Right. Making those more visible. Yeah. That's a good point. Along those lines, a question from Paige, can we coordinate a training directly from PCC? So could we have potentially PCC trainers come virtually to us specifically for the Alliance? I'm not sure. I think that would require a little bit of coordination between Jesse and I and Amy Kokenauer, who's our Alliance training coordinator, to see if we could make that fit into our budget to bring a trainer in from outside. And it would depend, I think, as Casey just commented, it would depend on whether PCC would support that model of training. Casey's comment is he's not sure if there are plans to offer synchronous training from PCC, but the Standing Committee on Training is looking into what are the possibilities for them in terms of providing training. I think we could probably coordinate, like, even if the PCC is not, if their options don't include synchronous training, perhaps we could organize some synchronous meeting times to go through, like the training series that Adam just mentioned, which is the phase 1 training materials, the recorded webinars and the materials therein. I think we can certainly arrange to have a group, get together to go through those. Similar to like a special open call that we'd have 13 of, or 14 or 15 of, to make that work.
Leslie,
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, I think that would be very helpful, especially every time I go and look at it. It seems like I said in my comment, it seems like I'm reading in circles. And so
Right.
I think that it would be helpful at least to talk as a group about what it is.
Yeah. Okay. All right, that goes high on my list. I'm seeing another comment from Casey. I'm trying not to get behind too much in chat. I'm seeing another comment from Casey on the training topic, that potentially a small group from PCC could do a train the trainer session, and then those trained trainers could coordinate larger sessions for other Alliance members. So that's a good thought there. And if I read your comment and I get the gist of your comment completely wrong, please let me know. Please jump in and stop me. A comment from Michelle. I'm gonna move into more recent comments in chat. So moving maybe slightly away from the training conversation. A consortial subscription to the toolkit would be helpful, and I've had it off and on before, but official RDA just feels kind of hard to get into. It feels impenetrable and hard to consider, like, well, how would I actually apply this in my day-to-day work? So that's a consistent comment, and I see that's getting a lot of thumbs up reactions.
But that's what the PCC introductory training was supposed to help with. I agree with the comment, but there is at least some training out there to make it less impenetrable.
Right. Okay.
I also agree that if we properly develop training and application profiles, will hopefully make it the need to use the actual toolkit minimal, because we'll go to the policy, the metadata guidance documentation and other things.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I think it seems to me, one of the things about the phase 1 training, and I'm seeing Holly's most recent comment, which is that it's a lot of time, and it hasn't been super engaging. I feel like in an effort to really bring people along from the beginning, and making phase 1 more about the conceptual framework, I think catalogers are more used to hands-on training, and I don't want to paint everyone with the same broad brush, so forgive me for doing that. I can only speak directly for myself as a cataloger. Like, I respond best to something. If you show it to me, then okay, let me use it, show me how to use it so I can really wrap my hands around it and get my head around it. And that works better for me than kind of listening and poking along as we go through a conceptual, like, this is how it's set up. So that might be part of what people are experiencing, is that it's a lot easier to internalize something if you can use it right away. But as Adam comments, without those application profiles and guidance on how to use it yet, we're still waiting for that piece. So yeah, it feels really weird. Okay, and I'm seeing comments from others saying, yeah, it feels like what we have in terms of training right now is very theoretical and can be difficult to really grapple with. Comments including some folks would prefer less time on conceptual theoretical and more focus on applications, which will be coming. It will be coming. And then some comments about the later sessions in that phase 1 training feeling more useful than the first few. But noting that even the trainers in some of those sessions kind of struggle with application, which we're not quite to yet. So that's good. And Casey's posted a word here about, oh, all right, I don't know that acronym. I'm gonna metadata guidance documentation. Okay, thank you. So Casey has shared this link in chat to the metadata guidance documentation for RDA. And he's expressed if you read these and if something in there confuses you or is unclear or trips you up, please do submit feedback. And he's given the link to submit feedback as well. And I'll include these links when I'm going to go back through the notes from today's session because Elizabeth is very kindly taking notes as we discuss things. And I will add these links from chat to the conversation there too. So, and that notes document will be posted along with our session recording from today so that we all have access to all the links that are being shared. A question from Michelle Lennox. For people who are involved in development and training for official RDA, is there any consideration of adjusting the standard back toward a more practicable framework, or are we, and in my paraphrase, are we full speed ahead with official RDA becoming the new standard? And I don't know if we have anyone who's willing to comment on that, but it is an open question if we do. We also have a comment from Casey. There's been talk of tailoring future training modules to be bridges. In other words, what specifically will look different in your records versus the original RDA that we're currently using. And he notes that, training from the ground up in official RDA is a lot harder than maybe training to move from AACR2 to RDA was, or training a new cataloger up into the original RDA was. Oh, props to Jesse, who's taking notes, not Elizabeth. That's a comment from Elizabeth. A comment from Adam regarding, the practical versus theoretical. He just to remind us, the intro sessions on how to navigate the RDA toolkit are also really important, because if you get in there and you don't know where to find what you're looking for, you're going to very quickly get frustrated and give up. So don't give up and do watch those early sessions on navigation. Let's see. I think I've lost a thread here. Okay. All right, looking at our time. So this has been a great conversation. I feel like I'm in my tribe because I have a lot of the same feelings about the new toolkit, the official RDA. I'm sorry, I keep using the wrong word. And I don't feel so alone. I'm hoping that we can continue having these conversations in the tech services community list and even the Alliance e-resources community list if everybody over there wants to hear about RDA, although I don't know. Yeah, in summary, RDA angst, yes, Holly, you summarized appropriately and much more succinctly than I have. This is definitely something like I've heard a lot of good ideas in our conversation today that I'm going to take back and think about, okay, alliance support, what can we do? Can we arrange training? Can we do consortial subscription to the toolkit? Can we make sure everybody's on an even footing across all of our member institutions coming into this? Because RDA, official RDA is certainly the most imminent of these two topics that I've brought to talk about today. And so we definitely want to make sure that everybody has an equitable opportunity to understand what's going on, get familiar with the tools, start using the tools when that training becomes available. So let's see what we can do. So I've gotten several good ideas about what to do from the alliance level to help support that. So looking at time, we only have 8 minutes left, and I'm not gonna shorten anybody's lunch period today. So that is not my presentation for right now. This is my presentation for right now. So next, let's move on, and let me make that a little more visible. Let's move on and talk about BIBFRAME. So BIBFRAME is kind of the elephant in the room, it feels like, and it's been in the room for a long time. So we're kind of, it's the elephant, it's like inching closer to us day by day, I suppose. Now, to me, BIBFRAME doesn't feel as imminent because it feels like there's still a lot to be figured out about BIBFRAME as an encoding format for bibliographic information. So this, again, the discussion prompts are kind of similar. What have you heard? What have you done locally, if anything? What questions do you have? And what do you need? What do you feel like you're lacking in terms of being able to grapple with BIBFRAME successfully currently? So I'll open the floor on the BIBFRAME topic. And I'll open the discussion with a little bit of a kind of a prompt, which is BIBFRAME feels more dependent on external events to me. Like sitting in the seat of, the Alliance Network Zone and how we have our BIB records tied to OCLC WorldCat. It feels like any Alliance-wide implementation of BIBFRAME is waiting on what's OCLC going to do. We're kind of sitting here waiting for a decision about, how is OCLC, and I know OCLC is working on that. How are they going to integrate BIBFRAME? What does that look like in practical terms? I've had lots of images in my head. Some are scary, some are not so much. So it kind of does feel like we're waiting. As the Alliance, we're waiting. But then the question occurs to me, and maybe I'll pose this question to you. Are there things we can be doing in the meantime? Like while we're waiting for OCLC to figure out what they're going to do with BIBFRAME, what are the things we can be doing to familiarize ourselves or get comfortable? And I've got a note from Casey in chat. The PCC is holding and he notes that it's a closed planning meeting in early November, so in just a couple of weeks. And their goals are to determine policy priorities and look at the state of the industry in terms of various flavors of BIBFRAME. Casey's offered to pass along questions and concerns from Alliance members to that meeting. And after the meeting, outcomes will be published. So keep that in mind. Feel free to reach out to Casey. I will put Casey's note here into the notes if Jesse is not already doing that. Comment from Paige, and I have to say, Paige, I agree with you. To be honest, I know BIBFRAME, but I'm still not clear as to what it does. And yes, it seems like a shiny new toy we don't need or haven't asked for, but we're forced to play with. I feel that in my soul. Comment from Adam at UW and noting that UW has not been keen on BIBFRAME from the beginning because it doesn't follow RDA. which is our standard. And so UW has been advocating for cataloging in RDA using RDA elements rather than using BIBFRAME elements. Someone described it to me at one point as BIBFRAME is basically, in cataloging we have mark format, and we, like, catalogers speak mark. We talk a lot about speaking mark, and so you talk about the 245 instead of the title. And I had someone tell me, well, BIBFRAME is basically taking cataloging information and translating it into a markup that is understandable by people who do coding in other systems. And I'm just kind of like, why do we need to do that? So resistance, you will find me very resistant. A note from Diana, right now it seems like there's a lot of do-it-yourself to implement BIBFRAME. Is each institution doing its own thing? Some libraries are already using it. They're using crosswalks and transformations to mark, to upload to OCLC. And it feels like a lot of Alliance libraries don't have the bandwidth for all of that do-it-yourselfing. And University of Washington's been experimenting, but there's no way to implement that kind of thing in full scale. And Adam adds to that they've lost some key positions that were working on that project, so things are on hold. I can share that Alma's support, and we just have a couple more minutes, so I'll wrap up. I can share that, like, Alma's support for BIBFRAME is they're supporting it as an independent but related metadata format. So the support so far feels largely like conversion, like into and out of mark. Like you can import a BIBFRAME record and it stays in BIBFRAME format, but you still have the mark record as well. In the notes document, which I'll share out after the session, I've put in an exchange that I had with Ex Libris about, well, how does this BIBFRAME support in Alma work in a network zone consortium? Like if one institution in our consortium reaches out to Ex Libris and says, enable BIBFRAME for us so that we have full features with BIBFRAME, what does that look like? And does it leak or bleed to other institutions? Like, are other institutions then forced to use BIBFRAME as well? The answer is no. It sounded from the response, though, like it was something we would want to consider doing all together if we do it, that it might make it easier if we were all in it together. But I feel like that's still a conversation that's potentially years away. Noting Casey's comments right before we wrap up, that even at Stanford, which is where Sinopia for RDA started, there's still not using their own product in production where it was developed, and it's been years. It's been in development for years.
Yeah.
And then LC is moving ahead to push catalogers away from double input, so mark and BIBFRAME. So we have that. Casey is prognosticating that that the Alliance will wait for OCLC's editor to be released. That's probably true. Yep. So it seems like we still have a lot of uncertainty around when things are going to happen. Like timelines haven't even been set. Right. Yeah, long live Mark. I have so we are at time. So thank you, Elizabeth. So we're going to have to wrap up for now. I do want to say thank you to everyone. These are not fun conversations. They're some of these they feel like they're intractable at this point in time, but I do appreciate you sharing your thoughts with me and your information. So I will be linking the documentation, the notes that we've made from today, and thanks to Jesse for taking those. comments from Diana. It's nice to have the space to air concerns, and that's what this is all about. I want everyone to feel comfortable with having those concerns. When you're on your own at your institution, it can be very isolating, and you can feel like you're the only one who feels this way. But I think sessions like this help us understand that we have a lot in common in how we are looking at these things, approaching them. And you've certainly given me some good ideas in terms of the ways that I can start working to help support all of us centrally in trying to find answers and trying to move forward. So I really appreciate getting that input and all of the comments from all of you. And props to Adam and Casey, who were kind of providing some higher context for us throughout the session. That was very helpful. All right. Go have lunch, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out to the morning session, and we hope to see you back for the second half of today's SCTS Days block at 2 p.m. So see you later.